guys, it is and welcome back to another episode of King Class Customs. So, in the last video of King Class Customs, I said we were going to look at a very crappy City of Churro custom I had made simply out of boredom. But a lot of time has passed since then, and Churro is at a state where I cannot show him off because he is incomplete. So instead, I improvised, and today we're going to be looking at the entire Steam team. Let's begin. Alright, the first engine we're going to look at here is Thomas. Thomas was made from a Trackmaster 2 Thomas. I think specifically the one that came with the Thomas, Annie, and Clarabelle set. I bought about like 3 or 4 of those. Unfortunately for all the engines, I don't have any whip photos since these were all updated during my hiatus period. So don't expect to see any whip images. The first thing I did when I got Thomas was cut off part of his side tanks as was just a lump of plastic. Here's an actual Trackmaster 2 Thomas for comparison. Out of all the engines, Thomas is one I want to go back and redo, simply because when I applied the primer, I didn't let it dry long enough and then it began cracking in certain areas. Especially on his cap roof. I'm going to repaint that into the near future. Thomas is one of the few characters in my collection who I gave white buffers to. I don't know why, I just decided to give it to him. Guess because he's number 1. And another thing with my engines you may have realized is that none of them have numbers. It's because I suck at doing them and I do not want to screw up and then have to repaint the whole model. So yeah, they're not going to have numbers. And with Thomas, let's get on to the next engine. The next character on my list is a character who I think is probably some of my best work yet. James. And for that one person who's wondering why did I do James instead of Edward, we're going in the order of the Steam Team roll call until in the song James is canonically next. My AU version of James was made using a Trackmaster 2 James, obviously, with a bunch of things added to him, such as using ear cleaners for handrails, cardboard for a safety valve, Tamiya, I think it's Tamiya putty, Tamiya clay, I don't know what, I just used that to make his dome, and then a Crayola marker to make his funnel bigger. And I also used Tamiya putty and cardboard to make his tender a bit different, as well as cardboard to make his cab door longer. I mean cab, not cab door. Cardboard was also added to make his sandboxes, and then one thing that separates James from the rest of my engines, I gave him a wheel from an old flip-face Thomas I had, and repainted it black to give it to James, so now he has his accurate wheel configuration. Although I'm glad James has his accurate wheel configuration, this new wheel causes problems when he runs, so sometimes James will get derailed on certain areas in my layout. And that's James. I think he's some of my best work yet, simply because of how the lining was done for him. But now that we're done with James, on to the next engine. I swear I'm tired of them getting stuck in the points. Next character on the list is Percy. Percy was made using a Trackmaster 2 Percy, which has kind of been modified. Tamiya putty was used on his bunker, cab door up here, his lamp, handrails, and also his pistons. This is Tamiya putty. And just like James, a Crayola marker was used to make his funnel bigger. Then Percy was painted up, and then you know the rest. Percy was done. Honestly, Percy's a pretty nice model. to the next character. Next up on the list, we have Gordon. Gordon was made using a Trackmaster 2 Gordon and a Spencer Tender. The reason why I gave him a Spencer Tender is because in my AU, Gordon is a straight up A3. So, he's an express engine, so it only makes sense to give him a Corridor Tender. I don't know why he doesn't have one in the main canon. Also, I just think that a Falwar Tender, however you pronounce that word, I guess you guys know what I mean. I just think that sort of tender would just look stupid behind Gordon. Tamiya putty was used on his firebox and also his lamps, and a piece of cardboard was added to the back of Gordon to make his corridor seem bigger. Then Gordon was painted and boom, he was done. Easily a nice character to my collection. I'm glad I have a Gordon. On to the next character. Next character on the list. Emily. The reason I never made Emily for the longest time was because simply a person had asked me if I could make their OC. And so I was kind of mixed about it if I should risk my... Well, I have two Emilys, but at the time the other one was in a state where I didn't want to bother fixing it. And this one was the only good one available, so I was reconsidering it if I should make the OC or make Emily, and in the end I decided to make Emily. And just in case if you couldn't tell, Emily's face was originally ripped off and I had to glue it back on, which kind of makes her look odd. Emily does not have her original tender because it's in a very bad condition. I might repurpose it for something else, I don't know. I don't remember what I used to make her funnel. I think it was like cardboard and some paper. I don't know. And Emily's painted the same green I gave all my other NWR engines because I found it kind of weird that Emily was a one-off green and she was a part of the Steam team. Emily's a character that I think I could do better because her lighting's kind of sloppy, not to mention her face. But that is Emily. On to the next engine. Next up is probably an engine who I think I did a pretty great job on. Henry. Henry was made using a Trackmaster 2 Henry and a broken talking Edward tender who the front two has long since been gone. This tender has been a lot of things, but now it is a tender for Henry. Cardboard was used to add the sides to the tender, and I covered it in paper to cover up all the other stuff this tender has been through, although you can kind of see on the sides. The best thing about Henry is that he comes with an old shaped shell. So meaning if I wanted to, let me unscrew him real quick. Henry's removable, and you can stick on the old shaped shell. So, if I ever need to film with a scene that contains old shaped Henry, I have one. The old shaped shell was made from a Gordon from this video right here. And you can tell because it's missing a lamp iron and has the number 4 written on the front, and you really need to scrub that off. And that is Henry. On to the next engine. Next up, Edward. Edward was made using an Edward, and for some reason I gave him a Gordon temper. It has the oval buffers. Using some broken side rods and a piece of cardboard, I was able to give Edward his accurate wheel configuration. He has ear cleaners used for handrails, and a piece of cardboard for a safety valve, and that's about it. Not much was done for Edward. He was pretty much a basic repaint. On to the next engine. Next up, Toby. Toby was made using my only Trackmaster 2 Toby, with some added details. Ear cleaners were used to make the details on his roof. So was the piece of an ornament, and his roof is also covered in paper. Unlike most engines in my collection, Toby is actually covered in Sharpie instead of paint, which what makes him different from most of my engines. It's kind of odd, but that's Toby. On to the next engine. Yes, I said next engine because in 2018, Nia and Rebecca were added to the STEAM team. So next up, Nia. Nia has a white running board, that's it. Next engine. And finally, out of all the STEAM team, we have Rebecca. The first change I made to Rebecca was getting rid of those annoying little nubs she has, because I have no idea why Mattel gave it to her. She's not a bullet train. And I replaced them with her front buffers on her tender. But seriously, her tender has no front buffers. I don't know why they gave her front buffers anyways, it's kind of weird. Most of the annoying yellow on Rebecca's tender was removed because I found it annoying. She was given silver detailing and her buffer beam was painted red. And her couplings were removed and replaced with that of a paper clip, so I have more couplings. I've tested it out on the layout with and without rolling stock, and she works just fine. Since all the engines can run, it's time to have a running session.